on the exam, we have these two. There's going to be, I think, 3 other charts. I'll be putting those up. Just so I don't forget, let me just put them up so there's no surprises. So I always hope there's not surprises when it comes to the exam. We have that one, we have this one. And then the mid-sagittal head chart is the last one. The last one I'll put it up is the mid-sagittal head. I think you're comfortable with that. So as far as charts go, we have this one, this one, this one that has the ear. We have the autonomic nervous system one, and the mid-sagittal head chart. So those are the charts. We have, for the histology, there's several microscopes. If you want, I can do a histo review. If later, if anyone wants, I can do that. Let me know. Then back here, I'll just go over, kind of highlight some of these models. And so if anything is foreign to you, just you can say, okay, I want to look at that. With this particular model, not a lot that would be done, but one really good thing. On this model, we see the nasal cavity. That's pretty good on this one. I see the inferior, middle, and superior nasal concha. Under the inferior nasal concha is where you see the opening to the nasolacrimal duct. And so that's kind of highlight on this one to see where that nasolacrimal duct is, and then you know that tears come out right there. And so that's a good one to see and just kind of think that's where my tears are coming into my nasal cavity, that's why I have to sniffle. So that's the highlight of this one really, is to see nasolacrimal duct. This model I think I've gone over pretty good. This one is really good at seeing the inner ear. All those questions related to the inner ear could be asked with this particular model. And so you have and so if you have any questions with this one, all of the inner ear questions basically could be asked. You have semicircular duct, semicircular canals, utricle, saccule, etc. And then we have the eye models like this, several eye models. Hopefully, if you know the charts, you know the eye models pretty well. But on this eye model, very good optic disc. I think that's one of the good things you can see really nicely. When I look at the actual eye, I can see the layers pretty nicely. I see the white specific layer, which would be what?
Sclera.
Sclera. And so remember, if it's specific layer, you would say sclera. If it's tunic, you would say fibrous tunic. So if the question is tunic, you're thinking of the 3 different tunics. And then if I move this, I take this one off, and then I see a dark specific layer, which is what? It would be the choroid, and it's dark because of all that melanin. So I think you all saw the sheep eyeball, how much melanin there is. It's the choroid that has all that melanin, making all that black in there. And the choroid, the tunic, is the vascular tunic. Another name for the vascular tunic is the uvea. And so you'd want to know both names. If I remove the choroid and look on the inside, I can see a specific layer, which is what?
Retina.
The retina. And the retina is the nervous tunic. Also, when I look inside of the eyeball, I should be able to see the oris serrata nicely. I can see the ciliary processes nicely. And so if you haven't seen those on the model, just take a look at them. Also with the model, you can see very nicely the 3-dimensional spaces. So it's a good place to do posterior cavity. Also, when you look at the optic nerve, you can see where the optic disc is. That is pretty nice. And then when I look in the front, I can see a nice iris and the opening, which is the pupil. So those are good things to recognize on the model. If you haven't looked at the model, I think all of the eye models have those things. With the ear model, a lot of them should be pretty clear, but the 3-dimensional things are the best, where you see the external auditory meatus, good pinna, good helix, tympanic cavity with the ossicles you can see nicely. You can see the tympanic cavity. And so with models, you see spaces so much better. Tympanic cavity is the space within that middle ear, and you want to be comfortable knowing middle ear would be asked as a region, because it's a region of the ear, and then tympanic cavity would be the space in there. You also see good inner ear, or bony labyrinth. The specific parts could be asked, where you see the cochlea, the vestibule, semicircular canal is really nice on this, as well as the nerves. This nerve coming off from the cochlea would be specifically what?
Vestibular.
The cochlear branch of cranial nerve number 8, and then you can see coming off the vestibule and the semicircular canal is the vestibular branch. With this model, probably the highlights of this one would be the olfactory nerve, olfactory epithelium. We can see the optic nerve. Not a lot of other things on this, but those would be the highlights with this one. Hopefully you're comfortable with this. Kind of high yield, we saw this not only in this model, but also in the microscope. So probably would use both of these, and there may even be one in the microscope too, so a lot of important parts. And the tongue model is good at the different papilla, and that's probably the main thing with that model. We have different eye models. This model, be sure you know the sympathetic trunk ganglion. Good place to see the actual location of it. And in the quiz, we had the sympathetic postganglionic neurons are inside the ganglia. So that's the other thing on this. Maybe it's on the list. We have the posterior and anterior ramus. And so that would be the other thing. There isn't a lot on this model for this unit, but sometimes when we come to a station, we try to think of what else can be asked. And so that's also on this model. Then we have this one, which hopefully you remember all the parts of the spinal cord. Anything on the list could be there. And then we have a good gray ramus communicans as we had on the quiz. We have the ossicles here. You'd want to remember the specific bones. We have right here the stapes, which articulates with what?
Oval window.
Oval window. Good. And then you have the malleus, articulates with the
Tensor.
tympanic cavity, or tympanic membrane, I'm sorry, at the umbo. And so those are, and then the specific bones, you'd want to know the functions of all those is to transmit and amplify the vibrations. This model is a good one all by itself, where you can see the tarsal glands, the lacrimal gland, and all the lacrimal apparatus. And lacrimal punctum is nice. Remember, for all these kind of glands or any structure that we see in lab, you could be asked, is it parasympathetic or sympathetic, or what division of the autonomic nervous system it could be. So this is a good model if you haven't looked at it. We have another eye model. And we have this retina model. The retina model, later I'll go over if anyone wants more specifically. And so I can go over this one in more detail if people want. And we have this one. I think that's the main. This one obviously is an important one. So hopefully we'll look at this one. I think I just quickly covered the highlights of the models. Any questions with any of the models, or ones I may have missed one, or any questions? So that was like the last day to be a day where you can really look at the models, make sure you're comfortable with them. And as far as the lecture exam goes, multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answer essays, as it's usually been. I think I filled you in on, for the lecture exam, definitely be ready for drawing the pathway for parasympathetic, sympathetic, you know, the 3 different pathways in detail. Be comfortable with all those medications, those receptors related to the medications. And then I mentioned in the last handout that I won't make essay questions out of the receptor potentials for the hair cells or for the photoreceptors. Basically, I could still do multiple choice in the essay on those. I think I actually filled you in on those already. Any questions? So the rest of the time is independent review. If anyone wants me to review anything specifically or go over any model, I can do